Tomorrow will mark 6 months since I decided to stop gambling for good. Um, if you don't know me or my story, I'm a recovering gambling addict. I was mostly hooked on online gambling, such as slots and blackjack, that kind of thing. If you want to hear my whole story, check out the first video on this channel. But we are now at 6 months, and I'm really happy to say that. And I wanted to make this video to share some things that I have learned, some changes that I've noticed, hopefully some tips that can help you now that I've reached this 6 month mark. Now, the first thing that I wanted to say is this is actually my second time getting to around 6 months. The first time I failed and relapsed because I was trying to do it all by myself. And I think that's, if you could take one thing away from this video, one lesson, is the big difference in this time around is that I'm doing it with a support system. So, people in my family know, those who are close to me. I spoke to a therapist, and I also used this YouTube channel as a sort of impromptu GA by using the audience to hold me accountable. That also helped as well. But basically, this time around, I feel that I have much more control, much more success, and a much more positive outlook on continuing to keep this going and the progress that I have made. Now, if I had to say the one biggest difference that I've noticed in myself in the last, couple months or so, after getting over the initial difficult period at the beginning, is that I finally feel like myself again. When you are addicted to gambling, you don't feel like your normal self because you're consumed by that, right? And in a way, it kind of sucks all of the life and all of the color out of every other aspect in your life, and nothing quite measures up to that thrill that you're seeking. That's basically just consuming everything. And if you take a quick look behind me, you can probably tell that I'm a person that has a lot of hobbies and interests. I have a lot of passions, a lot of things throughout my life that I've gotten really into that, for the most part, have all been extremely positive. I'm talking about art, music, bodybuilding, these sorts of hobbies that produce something that's a positive outcome is what I used to spend pretty much all of my time on, other than maybe, let's say video games and other things like that. Like, obviously, I watch TV, everybody does. But I completely lost all interest in any of this stuff when I was fully hooked on gambling. And I even started, showing less interest in my relationships with people, things like that. Whereas now, I finally feel like myself because I'm fully back into all of these things that I love, that I know I love, have always loved. I'm spending time doing art. I'm spending time playing the guitar. I'm doing a bodybuilding competition. We're 6 weeks out right now, and my prep is going very well. Those of you who follow along can probably even tell. I mean, this lighting is washed out, but my face has changed a little bit since I started this channel, because I've lost about 40 pounds so far. But yeah, I feel like myself again, and that's a big thing that I think a lot of gambling addicts struggle with is, there's a depression and anxiety that comes along with it, especially once you reach the stage that you acknowledge that you have a problem, but you haven't figured out yet how to stop, and you're kind of having this internal battle where you're constantly going over, basically your logical brain and your emotional brain are having an internal struggle, and you know that you shouldn't be doing these things. You know that you're going to lose. You know that what you're doing is self-destructive, and then you go ahead and do it anyways, and then afterwards you're so mad at yourself, you can't believe what you've done, and the cycle just continues, and it will only get worse unless you're able to stop, right? I saw a Reddit post the other day in problem gambling subreddit, and it was a guy asking, does this feeling ever go away? And I tried to reassure him that yeah, the feeling does go away. It takes time and it's not easy, but there's some things that you can do to help it go away, right? So first of all, you need to open up to people in your life, because part of the struggle and part of that feeling is being alone with it, the isolation. Gambling addiction is very self-isolating. You tend to reclude yourself, to kind of pull back from the group to somewhere where you can be alone, or go out to the casino alone, where it's just strangers that are also there gambling. They're not going to judge you, because there's a guilt, right? And even if you're at a stage where you don't even want to stop yet, subconsciously, at least in my experience, there is still a guilt. You know that you're doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing. You know that you're doing something that's risky and is probably going to lose. Because I remember when I first got into it, in classical style, as happens for many people, I went on a great run. I was winning. For quite a while, I was winning. It took some time before the odds evened out, which they eventually always do, and they eventually always siphon the money back off to the casino, because that's just how the math is. But for quite some time I was winning, and I was playing every day. But even though at that point I had no intention of stopping, in fact I was excited because I felt like I was making money. I felt like I could continue it. But I started to hide it, right? Because I was definitely like, it's not normal to be gambling on your computer or gambling on your phone like every single day for multiple hours, right? Which is what I was doing. At one point, I was doing bonus buys on my phone while driving around, like, to work. Like, that's how impatient I was. I couldn't wait. I had my phone on the side seat, and I'm clicking bonus buys while I'm driving. So this is right. This is the level that I can get to. It doesn't make any sense, but I started hiding it a little bit. If my girlfriend was at home and I was on the computer, I'd be with the computer facing the other direction, and if she comes over to see what I'm doing, I would tab out into another tab, because even though I didn't want to stop, even though I was winning, I knew subconsciously, I knew deep inside me that I was doing something wrong. Anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going with that, but basically what I'm trying to say is, when you feel that, right, you're hiding it, you're bottling it up inside. The more that you do it, the more you kind of close yourself off and pull yourself back from other people. And then eventually, once the losses start, maybe you lose a bunch of money, maybe you go into debt. Now you're already alone, you're already reclusive, and now you're stuck there with these really negative financial consequence, as well as negative mental consequence. And then you just kind of wallow in it, right? You can't believe what you've done. You blame yourself. You're angry at yourself. You don't understand how it got to that point, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just kind of like a spiral. And then oftentimes what happens is, because you feel so depressed, because the problem is you've lost all this money from gambling, currently the only thing that makes you feel good is gambling. Currently your brain is wired to think that the only way for me to win my money back is by gambling. And so the cycle continues, and it gets worse and it's worse and it's worse. So you have to open up to somebody, because if you're stuck with it alone, that will only continue, right? When you open it up, first of all, just saying it out loud to another person is more relieving and will do more for you than you could possibly imagine, because you're realizing the problem, you're actualizing the problem. It's not just an idea in your head that nobody knows about it, right? It's a real thing. You say it out loud, you make it real, and you let somebody else that's close to you know. Maybe that's your parents, maybe that's your spouse, maybe you talk to a therapist if you have to, right? I talked to a therapist as well. But yeah, you need to have some other people there, because not only will that help absolve the isolation and the mental side that comes with that, which, as I just explained, will only contribute more to your problem, but they can also help you stay on the right track, right? They can be there to support you depending on how far you want to take it. Maybe you can lend some sort of control to them financially if you feel that that's a step that you need to do. But at the very least, they're going to know. And just the fact that you know that they know will help keep you accountable. Because then if they ask and you're going to have to lie, I don't know about you, but if I lie to my parents, they're going to know, right? So it's a whole other level of accountability and support. Now, obviously, really great option as well. Find a GA meeting, right? Those are specifically designed for people with the problem. I didn't do that, but I did create this YouTube channel, which in another way replicates what I was just talking about, where, I have these other people, even though maybe it's mostly just strangers online. When I shared my story and I saw other people that were going through the same thing and they're rooting me on, and I know that they are following along, watching, and hoping that I don't stop my journey, that's added another layer of accountability and kind of like a pressure, and like a positive pressure. Like I feel like I need to continue doing this good thing. Otherwise, I'm going to let these people that I care about down, right? I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to disappoint myself either. But when there's other people there, it's a different kind of pressure. And so that's why the biggest thing, is don't do it alone. So that's going to help with the mental side of things a lot, right? Now, the other part with the mental side of things is you need to accept that, whatever losses you've had, you need to accept that that is a reality, and that the only way that you're going to fix that reality is basically to stop, right? Like in order to fill up the bucket, you have to plug the hole. If there's a hole in your bucket, it doesn't matter how much water you pour into it, it's just going to keep draining out. And so if the hole in this instance, in this metaphor, is gambling. If you continue gambling, the money will only continue to trickle out. Even if you win back some, maybe you dump a whole bunch of water into the bucket all at once and it fills up all the way to the top, right? It's like hitting the jackpot. It's only a matter of time before it's going to go all the way back down. And that's just how it works. So in order to fill the bucket, you have to plug the hole. And thinking about it, ruminating, reminiscing, blaming yourself, obviously there's going to be a period of time where that is inevitable, but it is not helpful. It does not do you any good to just only continue thinking, oh my God, what have I done? How could I do this? What did I do? Right? Like, it's not helpful. So allow yourself to feel those feelings, but accept it. Focus instead on solving the problem, which is stopping the gambling, plugging the hole, right? And look to the future of, all right, how am I going to make money legitimately? How much can I pay down? How much can I save every month? And how can I increase that amount? Can I save in other areas? And that becomes your new focus, right? That's all that you can do. And once you kind of take some time and shift yourself into that, you have a support system, you're focusing on the future, you've accepted the mistakes, you will start to feel better mentally, for sure. So that's probably some of the biggest lessons that I've learned. 6 months no gambling. We are going to keep it going. If you enjoyed this video, if you're going through something similar yourself, please feel free to subscribe, drop a comment, share your story. Like, if there's anything that you want me to share, maybe you want to share a story through me, or you want to address something, please drop a comment, send me a message. I'm happy to kind of use this platform to share anybody else's message if I think it's a good one, you know. So yeah, 6 months, feeling good, and let's keep it going, guys. Have a good one.